Satyam nasti paro dharmaha. Satyam lokasya deepaha. Shruyatam drishatam kriyatam uchatam parapara sharanam agachati. Bhagavan sharanam agachati. Dharmam sharanam agachati. Sangam sharanam agachati. Satyayugam sharanam agachati. Om soham tattvamasi. Om parapara ki jai. Om Jai Bhagavan Ji.
Truth is the highest religion. Truth is the light of the world. Let it be heard. Let it be seen. Let it be done. Let it be told. Come take refuge in Bhagavan. Come take refuge in Dharma. Come take refuge in Sangha. Come take refuge in Satya Yuga. Om Jai Bhagavanji. Victory to God the Beloved. Victory to Maitreya, the friend of all souls.
The Maitreyan Creed. There is one universal God, manifest and unmanifest, personal and impersonal, immanent and transcendent. There is no other. Universal God alone is real. As all in a dream is of the dreamer, as a drop of water taken from the sea is sea. All that is universal God. There is nothing but universal God everywhere. All soul is pure divine universal spirit, which is one and identical with universal God and no other. Adhyatma Bhagavan Sri Babajan Al-Khalil the Friend is universal God's awakened one, bringer of the holy Satya Yuga, whom universal God has ordained to end the age of spiritual ignorance and bring forth the age of divine pure truth on earth. Out of his universal love and compassion, the friend sacrificed perfect final union with universal God for the sake of all souls for all time. In reward for his supreme sacrifice, universal God has promised that all who receive the enlightenment of the friend's holy initiation and follow him to the end of their lives shall attain self-realization and receive the supreme gift perfect final union that he sacrificed for their sake. Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji. India, rise and rise again. O Maitreya, go out into this world, bold and unafraid. Initiate all willing souls in my name and in the name of the one universal God who has sent me unto you. And bring forth the age of universal God's pure divine truth for the salvation and liberation of all suffering souls. And when the bigots cast stones against you, take every stone they cast and use them to build my church in this world. And when they seek to oppress you and destroy you, rise and rise again and again like the phoenix from the ashes until the lambs have become lions and the rule of darkness is no more.
From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness lead us to the light. From death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Victory to that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are. All victory and glory to God the beloved.
All victory and glory to God the beloved.
Jai Bhagavan Ji, 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 Jai Bhagavan Ji. Om Victory to God the beloved, that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
Jai Bhagavan Ji.
Jai Bhagavan Ji.
Please be seated. Today is Christian Holy Day of Easter. And so I want to talk today about my brother, our brother, Jesus. You see, there are people in this world who believe, because of their very narrow-mindedness, because of their small-mindedness, because they do not have experience of God, who believe that the only thing that can be true is what is in their book. This is our book. It is called the Holy Book of Destiny. It's probably about, I don't know, 5 1/4 inches by 7 3/8 inches by 1 inch. Is there any person in this room that believes that this holy book, which is my holy book, our holy book, contains all of God's truth?
No.
Is there any person in this room that would believe for 1 minute that this little bottle of water could contain the entire ocean?
No. No.
Well, that's what these people believe. They believe that their book, which is a little bigger and a little thicker, and the type is, well, the type isn't that much smaller, contains all of God's truth. This, my friends, is institutionalized bigotry.
Yes.
It's also institutionalized stupidity. No respectable person would say that a book this size could contain every bit of information there is about Microsoft Word. Or about the Windows XP operating system. You know how big they are? And there's lots of them.
Yeah.
Nobody in their right mind would say that a book that size, or even this size, could contain all of the California annotated codes that have to do with law. Some of you are paralegals, lawyers. You know that.
Yep.
Certainly, the United States codes fill half a room. And so we have in this world a divisive, I don't know, it changes with every generation. One year it's divisive, the next year it's divisive. I like divisive. I'm from Iowa. We have in this world a divisive faction in every religion. In every religion. It's there in Christianity, among the hardcore, thoughtless fundamentalists. My best friend of 50 years will not speak to me anymore because he went to a preaching session where there were 10,000 people. 10,000 people. All praising Jesus. Listening to this guy, I think it's called a Harvest Festival or something because they're harvesting wheat. And he came back saying, he can't talk to me anymore, I can't be his friend anymore, because I'm false. You know, if you walked into a room and saw somebody stealing money out of a cash register, you would have every reason on earth to say that person is a thief. If somebody that you knew, that you really respected, that really had veracity and had proved it over a long period of time, said, I walked into a room and saw this man stealing from a cash register, you would have cause, but not quite as good a cause, to believe that that was true. But if you heard it from somebody you didn't even know, somebody you'd never met, somebody you'd never talked to, or it was published in some little yellow journalistic rag someplace that so-and-so stole money, you would be a fool, or worse, to believe that about that person.
Yeah.
See, we're in that situation with this thing between this Mr. Zimmerman and this Trevor, whatever his name is. I've forgotten his last name because I don't pay that much attention to the news. We weren't there, but there was an eyewitness. But we're not going to believe the eyewitness because we want to believe something else. If you listen to the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, and the other race baiters of this world, because they have an agenda.
Yep.
Well, the fundamentalist has an agenda. The agenda is one way and one way only, and it's got to be his way.
Yep.
10,000 people praising Jesus. Do you know that Adolf Hitler, if you watch The Triumph of the Spirit or whatever that movie is, that the propaganda flick that was made, what?
Triumph of the Will.
Triumph of the Will. I try not to think that much about him. If you watch that, he had 50,000 people standing there doing Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler. Does that make Hitler right?
No.
Do 10,000 people in an auditorium make this preacher right?
No.
Has this preacher ever met Jesus and shook hands with him?
No.
Has he ever met Jesus and embraced him?
No.
Has he ever met Jesus and talked to him or been taught by him?
No.
Well, I have.
Try.
I have.
Try.
I'm not here to deny Jesus or Buddha, Rama, Krishna, Muhammad, Moses, Abraham, or any other of God's prophets, saints, Buddhas, saviors, avatars, or Mahavatars. Krishna. I'm here to affirm them. Of course, to the fundamentalist mentality, this is absurd. Because you can only have one way. And it doesn't say it in their book. Therefore, it can't be true. It doesn't say one thing in the Holy Bible about airplanes, or automobiles, or toilets. And yet we know that they're real. The Bible is a wonderful and sublime document in parts, especially the New Testament. The Old Testament is kind of bloody. A lot of rapes, a lot of murders, a lot of slaughters, a lot of genocide, a lot of stuff like that. The message of the New Testament of forgiveness and love as a way of life is wonderful. And a lot of the laws from the Old Testament are the foundation of our laws of our country today, and they're wonderful. But, brothers and sisters, just because there is one right number in a phone book doesn't make them all right. And just because there's one wrong phone number in a phone book doesn't make them all wrong. But you see, thinking is a very difficult process for people. We want everything canned. We want our beans canned. You know, we want our tacos wrapped. We want our what's that new thing, the chicken taco burger that somebody got in trouble for. A black woman got in trouble because she was singing about this chicken taco burger. And the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the Louis Farrakhans, the people who want hate to be the rule between the races, went crazy. She apologized. She apologized. How sad when people apologize for telling the truth or doing something that's innocent. Well, I will not apologize. But in order to understand why I'm here to affirm Jesus today, you have to understand a little bit about what I went through. You see, when I was 8 years old, I died. It's in here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Oh, look, somebody put little markers on there. Isn't that cute? It's in there. It's also in here. See how small that is? This is the world's smallest holy book. It's also made out of metal. Let me see your book. There's only 20 of these in the whole world. You can see it's made out of metal. It's 304 stainless. Burn that sucker. And that's why it's made out of stainless, so that it'll survive everything but a direct hit at ground zero of a nuclear blast. There it is. It's kind of hard to read because you see all the pages, they're very highly polished. Can you see that? And you can't read this book without seeing yourself in it. That's why I made it that way. Only 20 of them in the world. We're thinking of making some more. Do you think we should make some more? Not if you're a fundamentalist. This is a very small book. It contains truth. Nothing but the truth, but it doesn't contain the whole truth. Nothing this size can contain the whole truth. Nothing this size can contain the whole truth. Nothing this size can contain the whole truth. A very sincere man yesterday asked me about God. He's here from another country. Didn't really understand about God. And so he said, well, isn't God in heaven? I said, well, if God is in heaven, then there's something greater than God, isn't there? Let's see, heaven, we're in this room. Now, if we're in this room's got to be bigger than we are. Doesn't it? And so if God is in heaven...
Yeah.
Now, by that, what he meant was limited to heaven. Get that? If God is in heaven, then heaven's bigger than God. So let's see, who made heaven? Who made a room big enough for God to hang out in? Probably God. And so I explained to him that my experience, oh, your experience isn't worth anything, Maitreya. Your experience isn't worth anything. We've got a book. And let me see, wasn't the book based on people's experience? 2,000 years ago? And probably at least 1,000 kings and emperors ago? But my experience is this, and this is what I told him, is that this entire creation, including heaven and hell, and everything about it, is the size of one single You won't be able to see this. One single grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. And the Sahara Desert is God. Now, that is a false analogy. Why is it a false analogy? It's a false analogy because God is a whole lot bigger than that. But it's as close as I can get on the earth. Now, we might say it's like a grain of sand in the sun. But most people don't have any concept of how big the sun is. Most people don't have any concept how big the Sahara Desert is. Look it up. Google it. And look at how big a grain of sand is in the Sahara Desert. That's how big all of this creation is in God. God's big. Huge. Beyond comprehension. It says in this little book, God is the one greatest mystery. Mind cannot grasp Him. Only Spirit can know Him. You can know Him directly. But you've got to give up what you are to become what you can be in order to know Him. You can't stay as a little electron inside of a grain of sand and still know the Sahara Desert, can you? You can't stay as a grain of sand and know the Sahara Desert. You've got to give up being that grain of sand in order to go home into perfect final union with God, and then you can know God. But once you know God, you'll be knowing yourself, because that is what you are at your most essential essence. And isn't this what Jesus was trying to teach you? Not if you're a fundamentalist. No, what Jesus was trying to teach you if you're a fundamentalist is that everybody else is a lie. Everybody else is false. That's what my best friend says. He's a lie. Why does he say I'm a lie? He said, I'm a lie because I don't have witnesses to my absorption into God and twice. And to my making a vow of compassion that brought forth a new covenant from God and a supreme promise from God. It's in here. You read it. I'm not going to go over it. The Holy Book of Destiny. Maitreya, the Friend of All Souls. Amazon, $12. They won't let us price it any cheaper. I would have priced it for $1. Or less. Yeah. It's in there. I'm not in there. Do I look like I'm flat enough to fit in this book? Well, Jesus isn't flat enough to fit in the Bible either. But Jesus, so the Christians say, sacrificed His life for the sins of the world. You know what I say? Yes, He did. I love Jesus with a passion that makes the passion that fundamentalists have look like a cold fire after all the embers have gone out. But I do not endorse bigotry. Is Jesus the only way? No. Maybe He's the only way to get there through Him. And we can accept that. But I said I was going to tell you why this happened. When I was 8 years old, I died. And on the way into perfect final union with God and perfect total freedom, I was met by all of God's prophets, saints, Buddhas, saviors, avatars, and mahavatars. All of them. Now, you think that there's a lot of them now. You should see how many there really are. Maitreya was one of God's mercies. You don't even hear about Maitreya. He was wiped from the face of the earth by the early Christians. They took a lot of his stuff and used it. Just like I understand that the fellow at the Saddleback Church, what's his name?
Rick Warren.
Rick Warren is now teaching people that God can talk to you. When I began preaching that, it was considered an absurdity, but now they're teaching it. It's part of, it's not fringe anymore, it's mainstream. They even set a place at the table for God. And they talk to God over dinner. I don't know if Rick Warren's people do that, but the fundamentalists, the evangelistic, let's differentiate between evangelistic and fundamentalist. Because see, fundamentalism, there's nothing either fun or mental about it. It's just Daism. Like my friend says, I don't know anything about history. I don't know anything about what people say about what really happened to Jesus. I just read the Bible and believe it. That settles it. I'll kill anybody that doesn't like it. He didn't say that, but some do. It happens in Islam. It happens in Judaism. It happens in Buddhism. There are Buddhists who will kill anybody who don't agree with them. Buddha taught peace. Jesus taught peace. And so I met all of these prophets, saints, Buddhists, saviors, and avatars. Not in this body, but in the spirit. And each one came forward and they taught me their messages, their truth. And then we meshed, we blended, and we merged as one. And so, in order to join this religion, you have to accept all of God's prophets, saints, Buddhas, saviors, avatars, Mahavatars, and all of God's mercies of all time equally, without reservation, but also without being bound in any way to believe what men or women have written about them. You see, the printed word can be distorted. I wish I still had it because it was such a treasure in these kinds of circumstances. I once had a Bible with a typographical error in it. Now, they're very careful not to do that. But everybody sets type. Somehow it got away from me. I don't know, maybe my friend stole it and destroyed it. Who knows? And I'm just kidding about that. But somehow it got away. Because he says that there cannot be an error in the Bible. God won't permit it. God permits us one thing. You know, you hear people talk about God's plan. God has a plan for us. God has a plan for you. It's to send me money. Send me lots of money. Don't send me those ones. Don't send me those fives. Don't send me those 10s. Send me them 50s. That's God's plan for you, usually, when you hear that. But God does have a plan for you. It's called freedom. Freedom! Freedom!
God, freedom.
This is the Maitreyan symbol. This is the symbol of those who follow me and God. Not this. This is the symbol of those who follow atheism, communism, tyranny, despotism. This is our symbol. You see this symbol, you know what it is. See if you can get it on your license plate. They have it, you know. What does it stand for? It stands, the thumb stands for free will. This finger stands for free choice. This finger stands for self-determinism. This finger stands for individual freedom, because there is nothing called collective freedom. Collective freedom is slavery. It's a communist, Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist term for slavery. Individual freedom. And this little finger here may be the most important of all, because it stands for absolute, inescapable personal responsibility for all of these. This is the Maitreyan symbol. Not this, not this, not this, not that, and certainly not this, which is used by the people who want to pummel the rest of humanity into their way of life. But this. Freedom. That's God's plan for you. And it's a hell of a difficult place to live. It's so easy to have some bozo up on a stage, like maybe me, saying, this is the way it is. You go out and do this, and that's it. Let's see, we had some of those. We had David Koresh. We had Jim Jones. We had Adolf Hitler. We had Mussolini. And we had Hirohito. They all thought that way. And people loved it. Poor German people. German people are fine people. Sturdy people. They got duped. They got duped by this man Hitler. And before long, they're all standing in line with their hands up in the air, shouting, Heil Hitler. Sounded like a good idea at the time. That's what the man who went over Niagara Falls in the barrel said after they picked him up with a bunch of broken bones too. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. But you see, it wasn't a good idea. Freedom. It's a tough place to live. Because you can't go out there in the street and say, Maitreya told me to do this and that's why I'm doing it and I have no personal responsibility for it. Get this, guys. Get this. If you go out in the street and do something I tell you to do, you got these, but you got this. Because you got to decide whether you're going to do what I ask you to do, what I tell you to do. I have a rule in my community. It's called a Sangha, by the way. Ooh, that's a Hindu name. Well, you know, I think probably toilet is a French name, but I don't speak French when I go to the bathroom. Just because you use a word doesn't mean that's what you are. Sangha, I like the sound of it. It means holy community. A community of people who all share a faith in common. Christian church is a Sangha. And so we have this Sangha, and within this Sangha, yes, I set the rules. We tried doing that democratically. You know, it didn't work out very well. Because the rules of a Sangha have to be the rules of the religion that God has passed down to that people. The Sangha for the Jew is got to be Jewish. You can't have a Hindu Jew. And you can't have a Jewish Hindu. You can't have a Muslim Buddhist. Or a Buddhist Muslim. We have to go by what the particular manifestation of God that you found for yourself. In the East, here we go, another Hindu word, guys. You're ready to fall over. It's called Ishta Devata. Isn't that a nice word? It means the chosen form of God. So for the Christian, the chosen form of God is Jesus. For the Muslim, and they don't say that Muhammad was a manifestation of God, but the chosen form of God is Allah. Muhammad was his messenger. And they always say, may God have mercy upon him. I don't quite understand that myself, because God had mercy upon him. Not saying God shouldn't have mercy upon him, but I don't understand why they're so adamant about it, because he didn't do anything wrong. He did what God guided him to do. Maybe they ought to ask for mercy upon themselves when they want to go out and blow up little children and innocent people, because I don't think Muhammad did that.
No.
I don't know, I wasn't there. But when I met him in the spirit, he wasn't that kind of a spirit. And so I met Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Abraham, Moses, Rama, Krishna, Brahma, Vishnu. I met them all. And we meshed and we blended and we merged. It was a long process. I mean, the line was longer than the line waiting to get into the Oscars by far. And when it was over, then I stepped across a line. I stepped across a line. And left the world of creation behind and stepped into the ocean of God like a drop of water falling into the sea. Lost myself. Gave it up. If you want God, you've got to give up your petty personality. If you want your personality, go ahead. Now my friend, the Christian, he believes that when he dies, he's going to have his same personality, he's going to have the same body, only it's never going to age, it's going to be perfect, his eyesight won't be bad, he won't have to wear glasses, he won't have hemorrhoids or whatever it is that he might have, and that he will be with his relatives forever. How many of you want to be with your relatives forever? I mean, sure, some of them you do. But how about Uncle Joe? He used to smoke cigars and fart all the time. You really want to hang out with Uncle Joe forever? Of course not. And it's childish. It plays upon this desperate urge to survive as an individual drop of water. See, I didn't want to be a drop of water. I wanted to be the ocean. Now, I had to go through it all a second time. But I didn't have to meet all of the prophets, saints, Buddhas, saviors, and avatars the second time. I had to go through it the second time. And what led me there was a simple prayer. Beloved universal God, shatter this prison of false self and absorb me in the ocean of your infinite divine being as a drop of water in the sea. And when that prayer became my only prayer, when that prayer became my total life, through a very interesting and amazing set of circumstances, I went back into the ocean of God. Now, I'm not going to talk about my holy initiation today. I'm not going to talk about the salvation and liberation that I brought back from God today, because I'm here to talk about Jesus. It is said in their creed that Jesus was crucified on Friday. Saturday, he descended into hell, and Sunday, he rose into heaven. Well, this is where I'm here to validate Jesus. Because that's exactly what I did. When I died, I went through hell. Hell was a purification, a purgation. Not purgatory like the Catholics say, but it was a terrible place. It was a painful place. It was a burning away of all of the dross. Look up dross on Google if you want. It was a burning away of all of the little black spots and sins and karmas that were on my soul. Now, some people say Jesus didn't have any of those, but he went there anyway. Why would he go there if he wasn't going to go there for a purification? And when that purification was done, he rose. And they say he sitteth, that if stuff gets me, sits on the right hand of God. Well, that was good when I was 7 or 8 years old. I could see the big old God with Jesus sitting on his right hand. Now, the fundamentalists take it further. He can't just sit at the right hand of God or on the right hand of God. He's got to be God. Which is a blasphemy, you guys. It's a blasphemy to say that Jesus is God. I don't care how you tweak it around with the Trinity and all that kind of stuff. Yes, they are all one. But if you're going to say that Jesus rose into heaven and sits at the right hand of God, then he is not God. Per se. He's not the Father. He's the Son. If he was God, why would he pray to himself and say, why have I forsaken myself, when he was on the cross? And he said, Father, why have you forsaken me? He would have said, why the heck have I forsaken myself? And those nails would have popped out of that cross and knocked out a couple of guards, and he would have got down and kicked some butt and gone on. And I'm not being disrespectful here, I'm being serious. No. But see, they have to make him God because it can't be high enough for them. It can't be high enough for them. They're not satisfied to have a Jesus that sacrificed his life for their sins and won forgiveness of their sins, partly by going to hell for a day. Who here would go to hell for a day? Anybody want to go to hell for a day? Well, let's start a new reality TV series. Hell for a day. You know how many people sign up? 0. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Because it's cool, it's nice, it's great, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But you see, this is what I experienced. Now, my friend says I don't have a witness. So everything I say is a lie. Is this a lie, Mike? Oh, I said his name. I won't tell you his last name. He won't watch this anyway, I know he won't. But is that a lie, Mike? That what I experienced validated in my own experience what Jesus is purported to have done? If it is, then what he did is a lie too. No, this is the truth. Now, that is what we all go through. Think not? Well, then why did Jesus say, all these things and more shall you do? All these things and more shall you do. And why did he say, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father? And you are children of God. Now, I don't know one child that I have ever met that wasn't the offspring of his father. That's a tough one, you see. But that's what we have apologists and theologians to do, is to tweak all this around so that it doesn't make any sense anymore. Common sense tells us that if you have a father, then you're of the same nature, the same genetic line as your father. And if Jesus is our father, I mean, if God is our father and Jesus is his son, then aren't we all sons and daughters of God? Of course we are. And this is what Jesus taught me. This is what Jesus taught me when I met him in the Spirit. Is he a way to heaven? Yeah. But normally, here's what happened. When I died, I went through all of these experiences, and then I went into hell. And I was burned, if you want to call it that. The only reason we use fire is because, you see, the Jews at the time and the early Christians lived in the desert. Okay? Now, what's the worst thing that can happen to you in the desert? You get lost out there and you get fried, don't you? Now, if they lived on the ocean, probably drowning would have been the worst thing.
Wow.
But they expressed it the way it came to them. And this is no criticism. It's merely common sense. And so, they characterized it as hell. Now, why is it hell? Because it's painful. It's painful to have, it's like having 16 rotten teeth and having them pulled all at once without Novocaine. Or worse yet, having pulled one at a time. But it's a whole lot worse than that. Because you have to stand the personal responsibility for everything you've ever thought, everything you've ever said, everything you've ever done. Now, Jesus preached we shouldn't engage in violence. So do we know for sure that Jesus didn't have to burn off a little karma for beating up those people and throwing them out of the temple? Or did he have a pass? I'm sorry? I've got my pass to beat people up right here. No. We don't know. You see, that's the beautiful part of what I have brought back to you. Is you don't have to know. You don't have to know what's in the Bible. You don't have to know what's in the Quran. You don't have to know what's in the Bhagavad Gita, or the Upanishads, or the Talmud, or the Torah. Because we don't care what men have said about Moses, or Abraham, or Jesus, or Buddha, or Muhammad, or Rama, or Krishna, or Brahma, or Vishnu, or Shiva. We don't care. We accept them, we embrace them. Or Mithra. Are the stories about Mithra killing the bull true? Boy, we wish we had some people in Congress that would kill the bull right now, don't we? Where's Mithra when you need him? But seriously, are those stories true? We don't care. We accept them. Now, the fundamentalists can't understand that. The fundamentalist is boggled by that. Because you have to rectify and justify what's in this book with this book, and that book with that book. And what people say is, we have to kill each other if they don't agree with us. So say the jihadis. You know, there are Christian jihadis too. They were called crusaders at one time. So this is Jesus' day that he rose into heaven and won salvation for your sins. I just heard a couple of people's brains pop out there someplace. I just heard a couple of people's brains explode. This Maitreya that we call the Antichrist and all these other evil terms is saying that Jesus won forgiveness of your sins? That's what I'm saying. Not only am I saying it, I'm witnessing to it. I'm testifying to it. I'm validating it. That is my experience. I can validate it because I saw firsthand. I experienced firsthand Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and Rama and Krishna and Moses and Abraham and all of the rest, including Mithra. See, the Christian likes to hear me say that I experienced Jesus. And I'm validating him. They hate it when I say I'm validating the others. Now, that's not your ordinary Christian. That's your fundamentalist. That's your monocular. You know, if you try to drive sometime with one eye. You know why we have 2 eyes? So we can see in 3 dimensions. And those with monocular minds, who have only one point of view, locked down by something they've never experienced, locked down by something they don't know firsthand, or second-hand, or third-hand, or fourth-hand, or fifth-hand, or 200th hand, live life like this. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. Well, you don't even know God said it. You know it's in a book that somebody says that God said. Now, you talk about my friend saying, I don't have a witness. Where's your witness that the Holy Bible was written by the people that have their names on the books? You know, scholars say that the book of Matthew was written by no less than 5 people. Oh, wait, they're heathens. Really? Funny, Nazis said that too. People went to the Nazis and said, Jewish people are fine people. Execute this guy, because if we kill him, Jews will continue to be evil. And we can go ahead and kill Jews joyously. This is the nature of bigotry. I'm here to tell you, Jesus did what Jesus said he did. He gave up his life so that people who believe in him and follow his teachings, follow his teachings, will have the gift that he gave up his life to win. Sins are awful things. Kind of like having, like a dog with ticks on its back, you know. Make you itch, make you uncomfortable. They're terrible things, horrible. And you see, it's not that you're not going to go to hell if you don't have sins, because you are, but it's going to be an easy trip. You know, suppose you got ticks all over your body. You know what a tick is? Look it up on Google, you city people. They hurt. They crawl into your skin, suck blood. The way they used to get them off back in Iowa was take a hot cigarette, one good use for a cigarette, and put it over it, and the tick would back out of the hole, and you could get rid of it. But it hurts. So suppose you go to hell and you don't have any ticks. Is that going to hurt? No, Jesus took them on himself. So you go through hell, but it doesn't hurt. You still go through hell. You got to pass through. It's kind of like going through TSA at the airport. Only a lot worse. If you got ticks. If you got sins. But if Jesus takes on your sins, then it's an easy ride through hell, isn't it? Yeah. And you get to go to heaven. And I'm here to testify to that that's true. I'm also here to testify that Buddha found the way to enlightenment. I'm also here to testify that Muhammad did the world a great service by changing Mecca from a polytheistic mess to a monotheistic religion that recognizes that there's only one God. More than one God, none of them are God. There's only one. But people see him in different ways, don't they? And so, what Jesus did is true. You still have to go through hell, but you know, let's suppose you're down at the LA International Airport there, and the guy behind you or in front of you has got like 14 different packages. Some of them are wrapped with tape, some of them are wrapped with string and everything. You're going to be going, oh my God, I'm going to be here for like 100 years while they go through this guy's stuff. But suppose you walk in and you don't have anything. You go right through. Well, maybe. Depends on the TSA agent. But you go right through. It's an easy in. So going through hell after surrendering your sins to Jesus is an easy in. You get to go to heaven. But you see, heaven is not the end of the journey. How could heaven be the end of the journey? Now, God is in heaven the same way you're in this room. But God is bigger than heaven. Actually, heaven is in God. It's as if I take a cup and I put it down in the ocean. And I say, the ocean is in the cup. But the cup is also in the ocean. God's the ocean. The cup is heaven. And so you get to go to heaven. And in heaven, you get to use up your blessings. Now that may take an eternity. Because you see, beyond this world of creation, beyond the world of time, space, and circumstance, everything is eternal. All there is eternity beyond this. So hell is eternal, but you get out. Heaven is also eternal, but you also got to get out. When you've used up your chits, when you've used up your chips, so to speak, you know, it's like going to Las Vegas and you got a ticket in your hand that says 5 days at the Mirage Hotel. And you go and you check in. When you used up your 5 days, you got to leave. Now, when you leave heaven, one of two things is going to happen. See, up in the sky, we got the sun and we got the moon, don't we? It's interesting what Jesus said, that no man comes to the Father but by the Son. Was he talking about S-O-N or was he talking about S-U-N? Because at that time, in the world, it was well known that there were these two paths that you go through after you finish up with heaven. When you've used up all your coupons, all your blessings, then you got to go. And you either go by the path of the moon or you go by the path of the sun. The path of the moon, representing woman, is the path of being reborn into this world to take another lifetime. Interesting, it says in the Christian book that unless you're born again, you will not see the kingdom of heaven. How are you going to see the kingdom of heaven if you're not born again? You don't get to go there. You don't get to go there. And so, when you leave heaven, you either go by the path of the moon, which leads back into this world for another lifetime of suffering, sorrow, fear, pain, sickness, old age, death, and then to hell, and then to heaven. Then you got the choice again. You got these two branches. Or you go by the path of the sun, which leads directly into perfect final union with God. The drop of water gets to go home into the sea. Now you take your pick. Now some people say, well, you're invalidating Jesus. No, I'm not. I'm validating Jesus. Yeah, you get to go to heaven. You don't have to suffer any pain in hell. What a blessing. Now, Jesus gave up his life so that you could have that. And we accept that. There's not a single Maitreyan that isn't a Christian, or a Buddhist, or a Muslim, or a Hindu, or a Sikh, or anything else, because we accept all of God's mercies, but we just don't accept what people write or say about them. And so, after heaven, you're going to go one of two places. Well, very few people go by the path of the sun in any given time. And because of that, for some unknown reason to myself, I mean, all I did to attain perfect final union with God in this world, the first time, was fall off a flight of stairs with my brother on my chest and go down on my back, the back of my head on a concrete floor, and die for a few moments. To this world, there was an eternity on the other side. And God asked me to come back here to do a work for him. I didn't even know what it was. And he showed me all the suffering in the world, the way he knows it. It just makes hell look kind of like, I don't know, Palm Springs by comparison. I don't like Palm Springs that much. Not because it's not a nice city, it's just too hot. But he asked me to come back here, and when he showed me the suffering of souls, and he showed me the reason for the suffering of the souls, is that they don't know their true nature. You don't know your true nature. You have to have direct experience of it, or you have to have a belief that is so fervent, that is so deep, that it qualifies as a second cousin to direct experience, and leads to experience eventually, and it will. So I came back, and I spent 23 years finding my way back. You see, some fundamentalists preach that there is only salvation by faith. Well, you got to have it. You don't have it, you're done. But there's also works. That's one thing the Catholic Church has hung on to, is that it's faith and works together. And so I had to come back, and I had to, through my own works, regain that state of perfect final union with God, and find the way by which all souls could have it. Well, I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack. I thought that what that meant was that what I had to do is find some method, some methodology, like yoga, meditation, chanting, all these things. I did it all for years. Then finally I thought I'd really found it, and in a way I had. I sat down and I said, I'm either going to sit here and die or I'm going to find out what my destiny is. That's why this little book is called Destiny. That's why this bigger book is called the Holy Book of Destiny. And I did. And then I thought, well, it's desperation. It's only desperation that gets you there. When you're desperate enough, you get there. And that is true. That is true. And once I was there, then God said, I want you to go back and finish what you started. And I kind of said, what I started? You mean what you started? He said, no, what you started. By your first self-sacrifice. And I was so moved by compassion for the suffering souls of this world that I said, I will go back, Father. He's my Father too, by the way. I will go back. But I will never again take my own perfect final union with you until I have seen every last soul in your creation safely home into perfect final union with you before me. But I will go back and I will live out a life in an ordinary body as an ordinary man, subject to the ordinary ills, the whims, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and die like ordinary men die. And then I will ascend into the Spirit and live in the heart of every soul, guiding every soul home to you. Until the last soul of creation steps across the line into perfect final union with you. And only then will I take my own perfect final union with you. And then came something awesome and amazing. Not something I'd anticipated. Blew all my preconceptions apart. Because God made a new covenant with man, with you, with every soul. A new covenant. Not one that invalidates what Jesus did, but extends it. You know, the airplane doesn't invalidate the car. And I don't invalidate Jesus. I affirm Jesus. And I affirm that Jesus did die on Friday. If it was a Friday. Maybe it wasn't a Friday. But died on one day, went to hell on the next day, and ended up in heaven. I say, absolutely one with God. The Christian says at the right hand of God. It's a kind of a childish way of looking at it. But God made this new covenant with all souls. And He said, basically, because of your two self-sacrifices in this vow of compassion, because what you have sacrificed is so immense, I guess. Whoever receives the true enlightenment of your holy initiation and follows you to the end of this life, I will give that soul the very perfect final union that you have sacrificed for all souls. And that soul will come home into me as a drop of water into the sea, never to be reborn again, never to suffer again, never to die again, never to go through hell again. And he ain't going to need heaven because he's going to be me. The same way the drop of water is the ocean. You take a drop of water down here to the ocean. Or if you're near a lake, take a drop of water in the lake, okay? Drop it in the lake. Wait 2 seconds and try to find it. Where is it? You know where it is? It's everywhere. It's the lake. It's the ocean. And so this is what God promised. And this is God's new covenant. It doesn't invalidate Jesus. It just extends it. It's the next step. When you're through with heaven, come see me. Come see God. And then God said, spread this to all the souls of the world. And I said, Father, I'm going back to be an ordinary man. Look at me. Look at me. Got prostate cancer. Look at my hands. This is from medicines. You know, I'm 69 years old as of last week. How am I going to spread this to all souls? There's only one of me. And so he said, I will make this supreme promise to you and to all souls, that when there are enough souls in this world who have received the true enlightenment of your holy initiation and are following you to the end of their life according to my instructions, I will God said this, I will, without doubt, reservation, or qualification, or further judgment, extend this new covenant to every soul. And every soul will have the opportunity to come home into perfect final union with me at the end of his or her life. Does this invalidate Jesus? No. This doesn't invalidate Jesus any more than if you take an airplane and stop over in New Jersey on your way, or stop over in, let's say, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, on your way to New York, that going to New York invalidates Des Moines, Iowa. Only the bigot, only the bigot, only the fundamentalist bigot condemns what I preach. Because I preach the affirmation of Jesus. I preach the affirmation of Muhammad. I preach the affirmation of Moses and Abraham and Rama and Krishna. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. I am here to affirm them, not to deny them. I'm not here to destroy any religion. I'm here to renew the divine spirit of God in all religions. Do we have one of our own here? Yeah, we do. Because some people want to just get on the bus and go there. Some people want to just take the non-stop. Other people want to stop off, see some relatives in heaven, hang out for a while. Not very many people want to go to hell. So if you want to have an easy time in hell, accept Jesus. Give him your sins. I'm not here to take away your sins. I'm here to get you to perfect final union with God. If you think that meditating and becoming enlightened and achieving nirvana is important, then embrace Buddha. Meditate. Chant. Achieve enlightenment. And then I'll take you the rest of the way. Because even enlightenment doesn't take you all the way. I'm here to do the job that God gave me. And part of that job is to affirm his mercies in this world. So this is Easter. We should be happy that Jesus made it back into perfect final union with God today. Because that's what happened. He doesn't sit there. Listen, if God's got a right hand, he's got a left hand. If he's got a left hand, he's got a body. If he's got a body, he's got legs. If he's got legs, he's got to stand someplace. And where is he going to stand if it isn't bigger than him? Let's be adults, okay? Every teacher has taught that in order to realize God, you have to be childlike, not childish. So this is an affirmation. Now, can you go along this way without accepting Jesus? Anybody thinks you can? Put your hand up. Now, one hand up. No, you can't, because you have to accept them all in order to even be a Maitreya. You have to accept them all in spirit. So every Maitreyan has accepted Jesus. Every Maitreyan has accepted Buddha, Muhammad, Abraham, Moses, Rama, Krishna, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And all of the rest that I leave unmentioned because there's too many to mention. We are the universal religion because we accept them all.
God.
And today, you should give a little thought to Jesus. He sacrificed his life for the sins of the world. I sacrificed everything for the salvation and liberation of all souls. I sacrificed where Jesus went when he left this world on Sunday. Where he went, I gave that up to come back to this world of suffering, sorrow, misery, and death, and beauty and goodness. Twice. And made a vow that puts me at the end of the line of all souls going home into perfect final union with God. I won't get to go until the last soul goes. I'm the guy that gets to turn out the light. Believe me, I don't take that lightly. I mean, no pun there. I want to go home. I want to go home, and so I call you to come and help me get this new covenant to the people of the world. Not to replace Jesus, not to replace Buddha, not to replace any of God's mercies. But let's get this non-stop flight on the way here. Don't worry. Even though the Christians say you don't, you have Jesus. It's not between a Christian and you, whether you have Jesus or not. It's between you and God. And any Christian that says different is an imbecile, an idiot, and a bigot. Because I don't know any Christian that's bigger than God. I know I'm not. I've been in perfect final union with Him. I've been the ocean. But now I'm back into this thing, this little package. And they're in a smaller package. So anybody that tries to tell you who you are and what you are, you say, let's see now, when was it that God stepped down and appointed you? When was it God stepped down and said, this guy gets to decide who's mine and who isn't? When did Jesus do that? Well, it says in the Bible. You don't know what it says in the Bible. You weren't there. You weren't there. You can believe anything you want. And I'll respect your right to believe. And so will every other Maitreyan because of this. Freedom. You have the right to believe anything you want. You have the right to believe in the tooth fairy. And you have the right to believe anything you want about Jesus or the Bible. And I would lay down my life for your right to believe that. But don't come and tell me that you've got the corner on the truth. Don't come and tell me that you're going to force other people, that you're going to take other people's lives and enslave people to your narrow, monocular-minded view of creation and existence and God. Because you don't know. You're like the guy that heard from a guy who 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 heard from a woman who said, from another woman who said that somebody was stealing money from a cash register. Even our totally imperfect courts of law won't accept that kind of hearsay. So don't tell me that because it says something in your book, that your book is better than my book. It says something in my book too. I just have the courage, the honesty, and the truthfulness, and the common sense to tell you that it isn't all in there. What's in there is true. Can there be a typographical error in there? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If there is, we'll fix it. We find it. Oh yeah. But there can be one in yours too. At least I wrote this myself. Jesus didn't write the Bible. Muhammad dictated the Quran, but he didn't write it down. I wrote this. I didn't want it published. I'm afraid of holy books, what people do with them. But some sneaky and devious followers of mine did publish it. It's out there now. It's too late to do anything about it. So today is Jesus' day, not Maitreya's day. And we love him for what he did. It's a wonderful thing to give your life for the sins of the world. I had to go one step further. I had to give up what Jesus acquired by giving his life for the world in order to come back here for the salvation and liberation of all souls, for God's new covenant and supreme promise. Does that make me greater than Jesus? No. See, all of God's mercies are manifestations of God. It is the ultimate equality. We just have different jobs to do. And I'm here doing mine. So, give some thought to your brother Jesus. He is your brother because we're all children of God. And you fundamentalists, I don't know what to say to you. Live in your little box. You're like a person who puts a trash can over his head and walks out into the noonday sun and says, there's no sun out here. Get over it. You don't have to destroy other people's faith. You don't have to destroy other people's beliefs. You don't have to degrade other people's religions to believe in what you believe in. If your Ishtadevata, your chosen form of God, is Jesus, then embrace Jesus. I don't care if he's a midget this high with a humpback. What difference does it make? If it's your choice, it's your choice. Go along and I'll support you. But don't come and tell my people that there's something wrong with me because I don't do that. Because we do. That's not good enough, is it? No, that's not good enough because you can only have one. You see, there can only be one way. You can't accept all these. No, you can't accept all these. But if you come and become a Maitreyan, you can. And you can put the books on the shelf, refer to them from time to time, and love, honor, revere, respect, and even worship all of the mercies that God has sent to man since the beginning of time. That's my message for the day. So praise Jesus for what he's done. Just don't be a bigot. Open your heart. Take the bag off of your head and realize that the sun shines everywhere. And I'll leave you with one story. When I was a Lutheran kid, I was sitting in this beautiful Lutheran church. They had this big rosetta of colored glass. And as the light would come through, it would filter through the little dust motes in the air. And it was absolutely beautiful. And the preacher was preaching, and everybody was sitting there in rapt attention. It might have been Easter, actually. And all of a sudden, God told me, get up and go outside. I can't get up and go outside. These people are going to pummel me or laugh at me or something. But it kept on. Get up and go outside. And I was looking at this magnificent display of color. And I got up in the middle of the sermon and I walked out the side door. And people were making comments. And I walked out and I looked up and I went, oh, that's what you're trying to tell me. All of these different little colored pieces of glass were like the mercies that God has sent to man. They're like the religions that were built around them. But when you walk outside and you look up, you realize it's only one sun. And here we have people who, my piece of colored glass is red. Well, mine is green. Well, mine is blue. So we're going to go to war and kill each other? Go outside. Look up. It's one God in many different manifestations, and I'm just one of them. Om Soham Tetvamasi. Om. You and I are one with the one universal God of all creation and no other. Jai Bhagavanji. Victory to God the Beloved, that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
Amen.